Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of guests. And please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. And one more time, we got less than 24 hours. Go check out the Oswald Chronicles, currently on Kickstarter. So that's there now. So go now. Without further ado, let's bring in this guy.
What is up? I am happy to be back. All right. I took a little time off, and in that time, I hear you're losing sponsors. People are dropping from the show. Elon Musk wants to buy it. I mean, come on. I got to come in here to save the joint, baby. I am the sizzle to the steak that is Indy Comics Explained, ladies and gentlemen. I am JD Rosario from Unstoppable Comics. Been publishing books for over 15 years with the 2 bits that are in my own pocket, and finding some way by hook or crook to survive in all that time.
All right, cool. Now, you do know that sizzle comes from fat, right? And you know it generally gets trimmed off, right?
I got it, baby. I got it. Okay. All right. But listen, this fat wasn't built by McDonald's, baby. This is surf and turf all day, every day, baby.
I don't know. It looks like Dunkin' to me, bro. Anyway, greetings from Peru. Peru, what's up, my friend?
Oh my God! How am I supposed to come in after that? What can I say about that?
Do your best.
Oh, hey, I'm C. Michael Lanning, graphic translator, as put by Will Eisner. Done work for Arrow Comics, Calico and Shard. Got an upcoming Doghouse with Haslam Productions, and of course, Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we scour the corners of geekdom every Tuesday at 8 Eastern to inspire you to create comics outside the box. So
nice.
And yeah, he asked me to come on. I said, but is Jay going to be there? Because I don't want to be there if Jay's not going to be there.
No, I want Lanning. I want you here with me, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're not here, I'm not happy. 1, 2. If you're not here and you're not wearing a hat, I'm definitely not happy. But you got one on, baby. We're rocking a fucking
look, I had to go search for it. I said I can't come on this show.
My man.
Without putting a hat
man. That's how you kick off this bad boy. Got to make sure the boy has his hat on.
Nice.
Hey, it's me. Hey, folks. So, Steve Roman, creative genius behind Star Warp Concepts. So I say. And for the purposes of this discussion, I guess, former editor of Byron Price Visual Publications, former editor-in-chief of its iBooks Inc. Publishing imprint, and 17 years as a copy editor. So I guess I've got the editorial background necessary to talk about it. And I'm sure this will all degenerate into war stories at some point.
What else is
Will? Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to fire my TARDIS. I wasn't supposed to wind up here. What's going on? This is the wrong place. You guys again? Alin Silverwood, Pop Skull Press, former member of the editorial staff at Marvel Comics, current writing and editing stuff for Pop Skull and a couple other things, and also edit novels for indie, not comics, indie novels for a few authors, including USA Today best-selling author. So, nice. There we go.
So you have some experience.
My credentials, sir.
His CV has been read and approved.
How's it going, guys?
Hey.
Yep. Marcus McNeal, founder, editor-in-chief, writer, artist, general slave over at Odyssey Comics. Happy to be back here again, and something tells me this is either going to be one of the best shows that I've partaken in here, or like one of the worst. I don't know which way it's going to go.
They're not mutually exclusive.
It's going to depend on what mood JD and Jay Rosario is in today.
Yeah,
We're going to fire this shit up, baby. We're going to fire this up like a mother tonight.
It could go either way. It could go either way. All right, gentlemen. Okay, let's just start off with the questions. Hold on, let me put up. Ephraim says he's coloring a page. That's awesome.
All right.
And a good editor letter is a must. There you go.
There you go.
All right, cool. So yeah, so the topic of the show was thinking of editing and how it pertains to independent comics, right? I have my own picadillos. I know everybody does here. I've worked with Steve, or Steve's had the displeasure of working with me, and you know, and you know, he's been very kind to me. That's all I can say. But
I've worked you like a speed bag.
exactly, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of
That can
like,
be taken a lot of different ways.
well,
Not
he's
touching
talking
that
about
one.
my scripts and the amount of red that would come back on them.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not making
Yeah.
it any better, but go ahead.
All right. Hey, listen, don't start. I've read your stories too.
That is
All right.
true. That
So
is
let-
true. I don't give a fuck.
let's start with this one. What are the most common mistakes you see in comics as editors? Right. So let's start with Mr. Roman.
From indies or mainstream?
It could be either one, because in truth, you see him in mainstream all the time too. I catch stuff, you know, I'm reading casually and I'm like, why is this misspelled? And you know, whatever.
Indies tend to be spelling, poor word choices, poor plotting.
Mhm.
Some that really drive me crazy are if you start off a comic with a block of text in a word balloon. And that to me falls under, if you want to write a novel, write a novel. You're not Don McGregor. You can't put 60 words in a word balloon and go, hey, I did a good job, because you're just cramming too much information into one spot. Learn how to break stuff into separate word balloons. That's what the double dash is for, separating each balloon. Do that. It's easier to read, and it makes you look more professional. Mainstream, I think it started back when I was an editor. It really started to become more a case of people who didn't want to edit the people that they were working with. It was they'd rather be friends with them. So it's the attitude that you'd rather be a buddy than their employer. And if you're the editor, your job is to make sure you get the best work out of your writer, your artist, your letterer, whatever. If all you're thinking about is, ooh, I'd rather hang out with this guy, you're not doing your job, because you're actually supposed to be the guy who comes in and goes, this is wrong. And what I've seen over the years is a lot of editors, it tends to be younger editors, would rather be friends with, as we used to say, the talent, than an actual editor telling them how they need to fix stuff. That's the problem I see.
All right, cool. Alin, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean that's those first few things. You know, misspellings, or wrong words. You know, I'm kind of a punctuation nut, and it's like I think punctuation can really change what you're saying. So I'm like, you know, it's like I'm really kind of big on exactly how punctuation is used a lot of the times, and that applies in comics too. One of the things that I think is a big deal, that that will catch you up. I swear it'll catch you up. You've been reading a comic and you go like, okay, now I don't know where to go next. Like, do I go here or do I go here? I'm not sure where, you know, it's like the direction, the balloon flow, the word balloon flow, and sometimes the panel flow, are some of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot. It's like I'm going, it's not easy for me to know where to go next, and it should be. It should flow automatically. And a lot of times you get across, you know, you come across things in a book, and you're sitting there going, if I have to stop and think about where I got to go next, boom, you're out of the story. And that's the sin. You do not want your reader to come out of the story or have to come out of the story. So I think, you know, like the flow of balloons in comics, it's like it's a flow of panels, balloons, a story flow. Something you really have to watch for too, because, you know, I mean, I've been caught by it. It's like you get the pages in, you've written a script and stuff, and you've got them in, and you are looking at them and you're going, this is great. This is beautiful art. Oh my gosh. And then you sit down and you start to script it and you're going, wait a minute. You go back to your plot and you're looking at it and you're going, wait a minute. this doesn't work. And it's like, and you didn't catch it, because you were so stunned by the art. And then you're like, oh, that's the thing. Well, that's what you have editors for. Your editors catch that stuff and need to catch that stuff. It's vital. It's crucial that they watch for the flow of the story. And of course it depends. There's levels of what you're using your editor for. What do you need an editor for? What are you hiring your editor for? What are you requiring them to do? Do you have an editor who is a developmental editor who's helping you kind of like, look for things in the story? Like maybe, you're overlooking an opportunity here to do something with your story. And you point that out, you just drop it. It's not up to you as the editor to decide what the story should be, but you throw things out there and you throw them back to the creator or, the writer and say, hey, there's a missed opportunity here. You might want to use it. You don't have to, but I'm making that suggestion. That's a developmental edit, kind of a thing. And then there's, something that drops almost down to like just proof it, which isn't really editing, but it is. But kind of proofreading is it's kind of part of editing for me. I can't separate the two. When I'm editing, I can't not see typos. It's like it's always there. But yeah, those are some of the things that I see a lot. In Indie Comics, and you point them out to people sometimes, and it's like, do they, you're not trying to be their friend, Steve has a good point there. It's like, but maybe you're not trying to be their friend, and you're not doing them any good if you're not, pointing out things to help them out and make them look better, but sometimes you're not always welcomed when you're trying to help. It's like, I'm just trying to help you out, man. It's like, I'm trying to point something out to you, and it's like, okay, I'll back up. But so, that's it. Editors have to walk a fine line. It's like walking on eggshells sometimes.
Well, well, I'll give you a for instance, and I looked at your background, Alin. So you've worked with him. The craziest line I ever heard from an editor once on a novel was, "I can't edit him. He's Peter David."
I will tell you some stories.
If he's a pro, he'll take the feedback, but you can't just take I can't touch him. You have to open the discussion.
He was fun to work with.
Yeah.
He likes to try to slip things in there to see if you're paying attention, and it used to be kind of fun. It was like he was constantly trying to do semi-inappropriate, or at least when you're at Marvel Comics, it's like there is under the old Comics Code Authority, there were things that you could and couldn't do, and he liked to slip things into the the onomatopoeias, like the booms and the crashes and stuff. He liked to do like one of the ones I always think of that I remember I caught him on, I'm like, you can't do that. He did bathroom. It's like, no, we're not using bathroom for your explosion. A bathroom explosion. Bathroom. And it was like, so I caught it, and he's like, yeah, you caught me. I was like, I don't think we should use this. I was like, I'm like, I don't think we should use it. Let's pull that out of there. But he was fun. His stuff was fun. It was just a joy to read his stuff coming in. He's a lot of fun. But yeah, you do have to edit, no matter who it is. Yeah, you have to be a little fearless, which is hard sometimes. But
I'm curious. You said your panel flow. How do you feel about the arrows? Sometimes you'll see the arrows in there.
Very 1960s.
You know what that says to me? That says to me that you're just trying to cover up for a screwed up layout. It's like as soon as I see the arrows, it's like, oh, somebody missed something, and they had to just cover it with they didn't want to go redraw the page, so they used arrows. It's like, and it can be kitschy funny because, like you said, it is something that they did a lot back in the old days, probably for that reason. But it's like when you see it now, it's like if it's done intentionally and it's kind of funny, it's like then yeah, okay, then it's kind of amusing. But if it's like, nah, you can see this was just trying to cover up. It's like sometimes you get panels that are a little bit off and out of space, and the best thing you can do is try to get the balloon positioned so that they flow over the edge of the panel in the right direction.
Yep.
To keep your reader following the flow the right way. I actually have a page right now that's something that I got back in. I didn't catch it, and it's like the first panel is like the left corner, right? The second panel is actually the panel below that, and then there's a long panel next to them on the right. So, your eye naturally is going to go from that top corner panel to the right. And that's actually the third panel, or is it something, either way, it's something like I caught this and I'm like, okay, now how am I going to fix this without having the whole page redrawn? It's like, I'm going to have to be real careful without, I'm going to have to look at how the balloon placement goes here, because it's and script accordingly, because otherwise it's going to be hard to follow. And it's like, sometimes you just kind of have to play around with that. I think it's sometimes, hopefully, if you're lucky, you can handle those problems with balloon placement rather than an arrow. If you can, I would definitely try to do that if you can. It's like, okay, so the balloons can overlap panel breaks, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, and then that can all be, you can use that to steer your reader's eye. It's a little bit less intrusive than the almighty arrow, coming at you. But it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, okay, yes, sir, following those arrows.
Here's one for you, Steve. Less ball fondlers, more ball busters.
Very much so.
All right. A one-shot count. How many pages is a minimum page it must have? Listen, I would say at least 21 to 20, but it's What do you guys think?
Whatever you can afford.
There you go.
I think that there's a minimum to how many pages you can have in a comic for printing. So what's it, like 24? So
about 32, depending on the size of the book. Depending on
you can't go down to 16.
You can't go down. I think 24 is like the
standard
bare minimum, and
right.
Don Brown says
it's really hard to introduce something and then get it wrapped up in 24 to 32 pages anyway. But if you're doing that,
Yep. Don Brown says, "What's up, Donnie? That's so true. Flows when you lose track of panels. Donnie, we gotta talk. That's my boy from back in the day. Standard American would be around 26 to 28 pages. There you go. Hey, it's Allison. There you go. What's up,
Carlos?
Carlos.
Jack. Carlos working out. Look at that.
Yeah. He was just sick too, and look at him now.
Yeah.
So rush. There you go. 52 to 54 pages. Like he says, it depends what you can afford.
Yeah.
He says, I knew an editor that would literally stab your page with a knife. I knew I was fired that day. Yeah. He's talking about
that's
me.
Harsh. That's not right. That's not right. That's not how you treat. That's not how you treat your talent.
Don, I
Yes,
would
it is.
shit out of that.
That's exactly how. That's exactly how you treat them.
That's the Bronx way.
That was the Harlem way.
Monsieur. No, c'est non.
Yeah. Here's your voucher. Just wow. You know what I mean?
Look, we're like 18 years old. I mean, what do you want from me? It was a long time ago. Jesus, I had a Bowie knife. What do you want?
You were trying to prove a point. That's all.
Exactly. But as I've said this story before, that next page was awesome. That came afterwards. So
So now, Marcus, where do you stand on all this?
Yeah.
Yes, Marcus.
Well, with me personally, the top thing that I see is probably, it's the old adage of, media of showing and not telling. And typically I see this a lot in indie comics where there's just word balloon after word balloon after word balloon. And like the art can be fantastic and translate everything the writer is trying to get across, but like either the characters or captions are literally giving a play-by-play of the panels at that point in time, and it's one of my biggest gripes, because if you go out there and if you are spending the money to get a great artist, or you are a great artist within yourself, or at least able to communicate the story really well, and you're good at getting the panels laid out and setting up the pages, don't let the dialogue and the bubbles like drag the page down and get in the way of the reader being able to just enjoy the story. So definitely show, don't tell whenever applicable. If there's two characters fighting, no one should be saying, unless it's a surprise to them, oh my God, they're fighting and that person's throwing a punch and now they just got power bombed through. Just let it go. And my second thing that I typically look out for, and I do this a lot as a story editor, is when I'm trying to identify if, as far as the story goes and the flow and the pacing of everything, if something is being just kind of indulgent or if it's really necessary to the story. And this is kind of a hard thing to describe and quantify. But there are times when, especially I would see it in like action sequences and things like that, where something would be kind of thrown in and cool, but it's like it's not doing anything additional for the story, and it's sort of unnecessary. And even sometimes it comes to dramatic moments and things like that. So I think pacing is a big thing that a lot of people should come across, especially when you are in the indie space, and some people may just be picking up your comic for the first time or reading it online. You want to make sure like the comics bam, not that someone has to fly through it, but if they could pick that comic up and be able to thumb through the pages and kind of see the flow of the comic almost, then that's perfect. Should not be grinding to a halt so that you show off your creative writing degree that you paid a lot of money for, or whatever the case may be. So those are the two big things I'm all.
You guys got creative writing degrees?
You guys got degrees?
I don't. Fuck.
Jay, don't make me start. I'm just saying.
Listen,
if you open the door, I'm gonna walk through it. I'm just saying.
I backdassed into this whole fucking rigmarole, right?
Now, me personally, I try not to harp on like, unless it's something that really is like sticking on like, hey, is that a word like we should be using? But even that I struggle with sometimes. I don't know if other editors go through this, but if I'm closer to the development of a story, like I was there basically from inception, I've been reading the script, over and over and over for however many months, like going through it. It's really hard for me to like spot things that like, oh, this was misspelled, or like, oh, this is kind of a weird thing to do. So what I actually did recently was, and to go to the importance of editing, I hired a supervising editor that, now works with us. So it's like first pass before it even gets to me as far as like story considerations and things like that. Like, let's make sure that, the actual words are in good shape and we're good from the standpoint of just basic English and, making the suggestions and the edits as far as the words go from there. And then we'll get into the story stuff. And that really helps the flow a lot. So by the time we get to the finished product, we've had repeated eyes on everything, and like the script should be buttoned down 100%.
Cool.
Yeah, and you can see it too many times, and it's like, and you start missing things because it's like, oh, I've been over this so many times. It's like now it's invisible to me, and it's like, and I'm just like, you start missing things. It's like that's when you need that second. That's when you need the proofreader. The editor hands it off to the proofreader. It's like, okay, now you catch the stuff that I'm missing because I've read this 4 times now.
There's nothing worse than dropping a bunch of money, having books come back, and you're thumbing through it. Oh, these looks great. Then you finally spot something like, that's a kick in the balls right there.
It sure is.
I've been through it, and I know pretty much anybody doing comics has been through it.
Oh yeah, it comes from major companies, indies. It happens.
That's why you give out no prizes, baby. No prizes.
No prize.
That's right. Jake says Marcus is hitting the nail on the head. I can't stand what is seen being repeated in the speech. It's a visual medium. Use visual literacy and use words for enhancement and emphasis. Nice. Carlos says, I got a question for you from my work. Are any of you driven to see your IPs as action figures or Funko Pops? I just recently had my first action fig prototype produced. All right, we're gonna get back to that one. Yeah. Let's finish with this question, Mr. Because Mr. Rosario got like 10,000 words for this one. But go ahead, Lanning. How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, I'm not an editor, but I tell you one thing that does drive me nuts is dialogue. Is this flat dialogue that does not capture the person, does not capture the personality. Because what happens with a lot of them is it's just this flat. Everybody talks the same, and that goes across both indies and it goes across mainstream. Is not adding the personality to their dialogue. All that, and that's usually because the writer seems to just want to convey something to move the story along instead of actually conveying the personality and telling the story. It's like a play. It's an act. It's an act. It needs to be an act. These characters need to be different, and that happens a lot. I see that in indies, and I see it in mainstream. So.
And that's particularly hard with team books because you got to get inside of like, multiple characters' heads and come in with stuff.
yeah.
And you might, and again, you're trying to maintain a minimal, you're trying to maintain minimal words, and which I'm losing here. You're trying to maintain minimal words, and you're like trying to inject personality into that little tiny bit of like, whatever they might have to say at that moment. And you're like, how do you do this? And it's like, is there a way to do it? Sometimes it doesn't, it's not going to be there, but you're trying so hard. And it's like, and you've got to do it for all of these characters in a team book. It's like, it's a challenge.
I think what Michael has was talking about has gotten a name these days, and it's called Bendicing. It's popularized by
I was waiting for that to come in.
Yeah, not to shit on anybody, because I actually like a lot of Brian Michael Bendis' work, but one of his critiques he's often lobbied against is that his characters all sound very samey. The dialogue flows,
especially in a team book.
Yeah, especially.
In Bendis's defense, I'll be honest with you. I like Bendis best on his own work, on his indie work. I like Powers and many of his other indie work. That's the stuff I
Powers
find
is great. I love Powers. It's really strong.
Yeah. That's what I got for him.
I think I've read Goldfish. That was
all right, Mr. Rosario. What are your thoughts?
What was the question? What was the question?
Oh, what are the most common mistakes you see in comics as editors? I know you're in the milieu, so
all right, I am not an editor, right? I've hired one, right? The best line of business I ever heard was hire the people that are smarter than you in what you're doing. And my editor is a doctor. She's a professor, an English professor, doctorates over at SUNY Rockland here in New York, upstate New York, State University of New York. And man, do I put her through like the motions, man. She is a developmental editor. She is she has assistants, I think, that help her with copy. But what she does is she challenges me, right? And that's something that comes with developmenting. What the fuck? I need to.
Wow. You're creating new words here.
Is that what she challenged you on?
It's not.
You're what's wrong with comics.
You can do that.
You would think I would stop drinking these during the show, but no.
No, you can't do that. Then you wouldn't come up with such gems. So
developmenting. What the fuck? That's a good villain name. I'll tell you that. You can even use mistakes. Yeah, editors, stick that up.
Development.
Look, I'm here, but it's just like I need somebody to help me check myself, right? I need somebody to challenge me, to help me to ask those questions that I'm not going to ask myself, because I'm in the center of it. I'm the one going, oh, I think this would be cool, right? And she hits me with, well, why is the person doing this, right? And when it's not a team book, I got to try to, like Lanning is saying, how do I give that person a voice? And it's usually coming from me identifying some person in my life and how I would interact with them. And those are the choices that character would make, stuff like that. But when it comes to editing and spotting mistakes, they're going to happen. You try to cover checks and balances and have different people look at it to make sure things are good. But it's always going to pop up at the end. Uh-oh. Somebody's getting yelled. Somebody's getting yelled at. Is it me? I think it's me getting yelled at. Am I getting yelled at? Careful with the brewskis. I hear they cause developmental disorders. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
But they're great for creativity.
They are great for creativity. And it's cheaper than acid. I don't have to try to find ayahuasca anywhere. It helps.
That's why you need to make your own.
Yeah. Wait, what's cheaper than acid?
Beer, dude.
Beer? Beer's not cheaper than acid.
Cut your budget? Is that why you're asking?
I guess I need to help me develop this idea a little bit more.
Hold on, let me do some math here.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'm all over the place on this answer. I'm sorry. Good. Move it on. Circle gets a square. Who's next?
All right. I mean, for myself, I mean, it's a lot of things already. This already been stated. I mean, I think the biggest issue I have, especially with indies, right, is that guys are just not ready to step into the arena that they're coming into. Right? They're writing their stories, and that's great, but it's very underdeveloped. They don't know what they're doing half the time, if not 90% of the time, and you end up with these. I back a lot of Kickstarters. Yeah. I'm a super backer. I've backed over 300 campaigns, and I can't tell you how many times I get some campaigns, a lot of them, and I'm disappointed. You get this very beautiful book, great artwork, right? And then you start reading it, and you're like, okay, this looks really nice, and then you put it on your shelf.
Oh, thank you.
Right? You know?
Wait till wait. I think he's going somewhere with this. You know, you might want to wait.
Vicky Sticks, buy it now.
There you go. There you go. Listen, I have been to Calderon's house, and my trades are up there in the bookcase next to Simonson. You know what I mean?
This is true.
Yeah,
this is
R
true.
and then S. It's only because it's alphabetical, not
Yeah.
because it's a place of importance. But it's up there, baby. It's
This is true. Yeah, but you know, in all seriousness, I mean, that's, I think, one of the things is that people need to try to develop their skills a little bit more before they jump in. I know it's a dream for a lot of people, and I'm not telling you to not do it, but what I'm telling you is, like, maybe get together a little writing circle and beat each other up. You understand? And that's really where, you know, trust me, Steve has kicked the shit out of it. And at the time, I did, and Steve will tell you, I did not appreciate it, and I was a real asshole about it.
Yes, it was.
Right? And it took me a while to grow up and realize that Steve was right. Right? And it took me a while to grow up and realize that he was correct. And he got so tired of telling me what to do, he told me to go read a book, and I read the book, and I was like, oh shit, he's right. Okay. So
and that's a big thing too, man. When it comes to editing, I always tell people, and you know, whoever I'm working with as well too, and especially if it gets a little bit heated, I say that the job of the editor, especially if it's story editing or something like that, is to advocate on behalf of the reader.
Yes.
So you can hear it from them, or you can hear it 5,000 times as much once your book gets into people's hands and start hearing it from them. So what's the better scenario of those two options?
Right. Or also because she knows, or he knows, the end result of the story, and they want to help keep you on that path, like Alin said, you know, just from script to page, but not just that, from inception to creation, you know.
Yeah.
Aha! I used real words this time.
And you didn't stutter. That was good.
I did it.
That's true. That's true. But you can start developmenting as many more words as you want.
I want to start to use develop. God damn it!
It's the Brewskis, man. You have a developmenting disorder.
That's right.
You know what? I haven't been on the show, and you know, consistently, so that's the problem right now.
You didn't limber up your lips before you came in. Do your exercises.
There we go.
I love this question. This is a great question.
Yeah. How much does that have to do with these people learning exclusively from comics and not actually learning writing as a complete craft?
Okay. Exactly.
Okay. I think you get a lot of that with new guys, you know, coming out and pop up. Like I can throw some stuff out, and it's like, you know, all they've ever done is read comics, and it's like read some other stuff, maybe learn some stuff, and then do some stuff. You know, take some classes. You know, it doesn't hurt. Or like you said, I like the idea, you know, writing groups can be really good, you know. If you can get yourself into a group of other people who write and stuff. And then
but it's not just us. I remember hearing an interview with Denny O'Neil, who said he didn't understand. He didn't know about 3-act structure until he was about 10 years into his career. You know? So, I mean, you know, and that's step one to writing, right? 3 acts. So, you know, the professionals had it at one point as well. Right?
I mean, look, I took Denny's, I sat in on a semester of Denny's course, right? And I had never taken a writing course. I've never read a book on it up until that point. And listening to him talk about writing, I was like, oh, these guys already figured this out, this stuff that I've already been doing, right? So like there were techniques that he was talking about, and I was like, oh, I'm already doing this. And it was fascinating to see that somebody else had already figured it out. And I was like, if I had bothered to study, I might have known this before, you know, and without less difficulty, without having to discover it on my own. So
Would you have retained it? Right? I mean, sometimes on-the-job learning is better than being taught in a school. You know,
yeah, but
Sometimes.
but it was affirming.
A little bit
It was
of both.
affirming.
But yeah.
and I'm not advocating for one or the other. I'm just saying, you know, that there are instances.
You don't always see everybody do that the same way, and sometimes they can get away with it. Depends on what they're doing, which is interesting. It's like sometimes guys are just good enough to get away with it, and it's like, did they mean to do that? Did they know what they're doing, or did they just get lucky?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know, you know, till you see more of their stuff.
Yeah, you just kind of pick it up through osmosis. But also another thing to do is go check out a book on writing. You know, there's the what is it?
Learn a book, Seth.
There's several books out there. I can't remember.
But not just books. You got Neil Gaiman doing a masterclass, right? You got to pay for it. But
you have Alan Moore.
You have Alan Moore, right?
Also doing a masterclass. Yeah, I actually listened to that one on a trip that I took. That was interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to do the Alan Moore one. That'd be great. He's
okay. So he says, for the panel, what is the minor to greatest letdown in a roughly edited book? Lettering, writing, art? Between lettering, writing, and art. Okay. So
I'm going to answer for the whole panel is lettering.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say the same thing.
Because you know what? Especially in the indie space, you can see that people are going to be growing as they're writing. And then something actually that's part of the indie space that I like seeing how people improve, whether it's art or writing, like project to project or issue to issue. That's a really cool part. Like lettering will kill a comic. Will absolutely kill it. Bad lettering will. The art can be great, the writing can be fantastic, but the lettering is a mess. It just your brain fritzes out, and like I can't read bad lettering.
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, or if you can't read the letters, it's like you're out. It's like that you need that, and it's like I know we talk about how the art has to tell the story, but you do still need the words. That's why you have that's why it's written. That's why they're there. Although I've seen Larry Hama, who had worked with on G.I. Joe when I was at Marvel, had done this one very famous issue of G.I. Joe where he did the whole issue. It's a Snake Eyes issue, and he did the whole issue with no dialogue. And you can read and follow the story completely without any need for dialogue. But how many comics are you going to do that with, though? That's not going to happen very often. You need that lettering to work.
Right. I think we were talking about that exact issue last time I was on this.
It's great. It's
one of everybody's favorites.
It's crazy. It's amazing when you read it. You're like, he really did that. How did he? Wow, he really did that.
Starts off with that nice, splash page of the glider flying into the tower. It's just like, man, stop, man.
Jake says there's a lot more, but you have to pay for his masterclass. And he's what was this? Here's my personal reading list for learning writing: McKean's story and dialogue. There you go. And nothing ruins a beautiful book than absolutely inept lettering. This is true.
Here's a tip for letterers: stop using the I with crossbars.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. But
see,
they know that, right? But if it's a pronoun or if it's the start of a sentence, you can get away with it.
That you can do,
Right.
But if you have the word lettering and the I is capitalized with crossbars, you're doing it wrong.
Unless you're doing it on purpose to fuck with people. You know what I mean? There's always that.
Nobody needs to fuck with people that much.
Not at that level, no.
It's either lazy or you don't know to take the cap lock off.
I got caught out on that one myself. I didn't catch it because I was going through and I hadn't done anything for a while, and I was like going through and I was looking at the book that I'd done. It was like that was a thing where like, ooh, I should have hired an editor. It's like myself. It's like, and that's another thing about editing. It's like you can be an editor, but you write a book or a story, and you need an editor anyway because you are not your own best editor.
Glenn Fleming says hand lettering rules. Glenn, God bless you. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just sorry. I would like to sit there with the little lectures. No, I mean, for those guys who did it well, I mean, fantastic. But I know for myself, I letter my books, so I'm like, Photoshop and
I'm gonna send you an Ames for Christmas.
Yeah, Clip Studio.
Ames lettering guide. Jesus. Oh yeah. Good luck, buddy.
Wow.
I know hand lettering recently came up when I was discussing a project with one of the creators I'm working with right now, and the artist was really advocating like it would look great with hand lettering. I'm like, I agree, and especially if you have a particularly artistic or painterly book you're doing, hand lettering is awesome, but it's time extensive and it's expensive, and the readers don't give a flying fuck. If the letters look good and it works for them, then that's all that matters. It's hand letter. They won't care.
Mm-hmm. All right, there you go.
There we go.
Well, actually, Daphne, working with Yen Press as a proofreader, sentences that start with an I, they cap. So if it's into the void, they'll cap that I.
Yep.
With the crossbars.
Yep. I was thinking that too. It's like,
there you go.
Triggering everyone.
No, it's not. It's not irritating. I'm looking at it. Is it a cipher? That's what
Letters like deep too. Feed your letterers, people.
The problem is he didn't capitalize
letterers are absolutely worth what you pay them.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that people don't get letters. I'm advocating that people do. It's just that when it comes to hand letters, usually, I mean, digital is so good these days, and the plethora of different font styles and things like that, and ease of use and things. It's like I won't dissuade anybody for like preferring to do digital letters over.
And Nate Picos' fonts are affordable.
Very affordable. And he has
especially the free.
I was going to say some of the fonts you're using digital, you're actually hand created anyway. So.
Right. He's got quite a number of free
down.
ones, but like other than that, it's $20 a font. You know, you go to what's
Comic Craft.
Comic Craft. Holy shit!
Comic Craft wants like $100 for stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm waiting till New Year's. They always do a New Year's special. So
yeah.
You know.
But how cheap is it then?
Cheap.
Is it?
Yeah. It'll drop into like the 20s for some of them.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. So here's one. Let's say the writing and the art are both great. How do you determine a great storyline beforehand? Like these DC movies have all the best actors, special effects, and directors, but the storyline isn't good. How do you guys go about deciding what's a good storyline to run as an editor?
Man, that's so subjective sometimes.
Exactly. Right? I mean, I guess he recently saw Black Adam.
I haven't even bothered.
I was gonna throw that on tonight. Don't say anything to ruin it for me. Don't spoil it.
Well, you know what? I got
it's a fun popcorn movie.
Can I let me ask my question, because what Don is asking, let me specify it. All right. If you were the submissions editor at the time and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles went across your desk, would you give it the green light? Not knowing anything else, right? Not knowing what it would become. If it came through your desk at the time, hey, we're looking for a publisher, blah, 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 you know, the spiel. Would you give that book the green light?
All right. Alan, you're up.
Maybe. I mean, you know, I'd have to read it. I'd have to see what the plot was. I'd have to see what the pitch was. I mean, looking at it, it's like, why not? You know, if it was well done and it was really presented well and it was as catchy and clever and as funny as we know them to have turned out, it's like, you know, if you saw that in there, it's like, yeah, you might take that. Yeah. I mean, it really depends. It's hard to like second guess it later. You know, it's like without actually seeing what the original pitch was. You know, if the original pitch really stunk and they somehow got through and became what they did, it's like you might have passed on it. I mean, you're always hearing about things that are like major successes. It's like, you know, so-and-so passed on that. You know, it's like the old famous stories now about J.K. Rowling, how many times she ran Harry Potter by a bunch of publishers. And, you know, ultimately it made her, you know, a billionaire. You know, It's like you don't always know what you're passing on. And sometimes it's really hard to say what a property like TMNT was when it was first pitched. It was like, what was that first pitch? What did that really look like? You know, it's like, would I have taken it or not? I mean, I'd have to see what the pitch was, you know, really. I might have, I might not have, just depends.
Okay.
Yeah. Miss Marcus, you're a publisher. What would you what would you have done?
I see a lot of submissions, a lot of submissions. I probably would have picked it up. It goes to what I typically, advise people when they're coming up with their pitches and working on things. And it kind of goes to what Dan was saying. Well, like, how do you know, like everything could be aligned. How do you know it's a good story? And I say, if they cannot sell you on the story or on the pitch within one sentence, 2 sentences max of what the story is about, then it's going to flop and it's not a good story. So like, say you see something with, like, say, let's use Batman versus Superman, for example. Like, what's the synopsis of this movie? Batman and Superman have to fight for reasons. Okay, yeah, sure. That's what it's about. But what is at the core of the story? What is at the heart of the story? What is motivating?
That their moms had the same first name.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the core of the
typically
story.
how you know. And
Mhm.
we
But
kind of
none of that is present in that first book. It's not, right? It's treated as a one shot. So I it's just, I'm sorry.
Jay sometimes likes to hear himself talk. I'm sorry, Marcus. Continue.
No, go ahead. I was about to say we kind of went through something similar.
It's a developmental thing.
Yeah, on our project UBs, and like depend on what it was like Alin mentioned, like I would have to see the pitch and see how Eastman and Lair broke it down, like just words, no images or anything like that. How they pitching it to sell the idea, because sometimes it can be a little bit, but you can see the core of something. And I went through that on one project, UBs, that we are doing, that I'm finishing up the colors and letters on right now. We're going to have out soon. First time writer sent me the idea, had some, rough artwork together and like a very basic, simple synopsis. And probably 99 out of 100 editors would have thrown it in their trash bin and moved on to the next thing. But I was like, hold up, there's something here. Because the very core of the concept was there. Kids coming together to try to do something different and try to, change the narrative that their circumstances they're in are different. The core was there. So what I did was I took that idea, I met with them, we had a one-on-one, like, hey, things are rough, but like not agreeing that I'm going to publish or anything, like, let's work on it. I went out and hired an artist to sort of reconceptualize things and spent the money to get somebody who had, worked with Marvel, who's high level, who could come in and bring this sort of life to the idea and the concept. And I worked as story editor. We pitched things back and forth. We developed this concept for like a year before we like really started and like got together our artists and we were good on the script and everything was going forward. And I'm still like editing a little bit as I'm going through it and everything too. And it is it's not our top read thing on Global Comics, but it's the fastest to the number of reads that we have on it, and people are responding to it in just the preview session. So sometimes if you can see that core, that piece a little bit, and even, I knew like there was something there because I was reading and it made me laugh and it made me chuckle, and that's good. I know like if I'm enjoying it, just reading the pitch, then there's something there. And there's a lot of times I'm reading through something and I'm seeing the pitch, I'm just like, usually I stop. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, that's sort of like when I see something like that, I'm like, okay, if I'm already like repelling from it, just from being very open-minded and trying to read it, but it's stopping me, there's something wrong with it, and it's not something that I would like to develop because I'm not, whatever it is, isn't translating to me. But if I'm laughing, if I'm enjoying it, or if it's really piquing my interest, those are the things I pursue and I go forward with. So it doesn't have to be the cleanest pitch, it doesn't have to be super professional or anything like that, but if it shows enough intent, it shows enough imagination, and shows enough heart and care put into what the story actually is, then usually that would translate, and I would hope people pick up on those things.
Okay. All right, cool. Steve?
Ninja Turtles. Back in the day.
Yep.
As an indie publisher, it would have been chancy because there was nothing like it out there. And it was just this weird comic that these two guys had put together. And black and white. Although 80s, it was acceptable, just becoming acceptable for a black and white comic in the 80s, because otherwise it was, oh, if it's black and white, it must be shit because you can't afford color. And so you'd be taking a chance from that. For mainstream, I couldn't see anyone picking that up because it's these two guys you've never heard of. They've got a really rough art style. The comic is basically a Daredevil parody. And so I think they pitched it to Marvel, and Marvel wasn't interested because Marvel would look at that and say, it's like a kid's comic, but it's not a kid's comic, and we don't do kids' comics. So no, it's kind of like Oswald for you. It's like a kid's thing, but then you read it and it's not because it's.
Yep.
Ooh, he's still beating you, bro. No, he's still taking shots. Fuck this guy, bro.
We've had this discussion over the years.
Yes, we've had this conversation.
Get the fuck out of the show.
But that's the approach. Is it for kids? Is it for adults? You're trying to hit that landing mark between the two, which wouldn't appeal to a mainstream audience because it's got to be one or the other. Right. Otherwise, you don't know how to sell it as a large company. Right. So it's sort of a chicken and the egg, because if it hadn't been for Ninja Turtles, there wouldn't have been an explosion of indie comics, right, where everyone tried to be the next Ninja Turtles. So if someone had tried to publish it for them, it may not have worked so well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know if I would have picked it up in the 80s.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about like trying to figure out where the audience is, sometimes that determines, it's like, I might not be the audience. I might see this thing like, this isn't what I would be looking for, but I can see the potential for this. And I might say, take this to so-and-so or take this somewhere else, but don't give up on it. This is the potential's there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it works, that like, it's just not my thing, Yeah,
I think
that's not a rejection so much as it's just, this isn't what I do.
Well, I think they took it to Shooter back then.
It's possible.
And he was just like, I wouldn't know what to do with this thing.
And of course, but they were doing like Peter Porker and, a lot of other that kind of stuff.
The Starline was a little bit more lean towards licensing, right? The Starline had more had Sector,
Muppet Babies,
Care Bears, right?
Heathcliff,
Babies, right.
Did it have Smurfs for a while too?
I don't know.
No.
But
it also had their attempt at trying to do Harvey comics.
Right, Heathcliff,
because they brought Warren Kremer over and Ernie Colon and guys like that.
The only reason I know they had Care Bears is because Care Bears is the most expensive 25th anniversary book that had that border on it, right? Because it wasn't ordered because it was a kid's book. So today, that's the one that everybody wants for the completists. But I don't remember Smurfs. I do remember Thundercats. But definitely not.
Droids and Ewoks.
Yes.
Oh, they did that as well?
Yep.
Starman did that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Mr. Lanning, would you have picked up Teenage Ninja Turtles?
No. Because it's and I'll tell you simply one, you said it yourself, it's a one shot. Mm-hmm. So you have to make all your money back on that. So you're introducing something that could catch on, and it did, but they caught on because it had a toy line, a cartoon, and an independent film. And I know it had its cult following, but I mean, come on. Secondly, it's also based off of Daredevil, right?
Yeah,
it comes off of Daredevil. So you tell me that it's basically a spoof. Why I'm investing in something that's another property that belongs to a larger property, for one, and so you had the Foot. So in the 1980s, unless it found a place, the only like Alan said, the only place I could see that it would find a place is in Marvel would be like the Peter Porker stuff. It was kind of that offshot weird Marvel
spoofy weird stuff, their own stuff.
I know you still had you had your independent stuff, you had your anniversary, you had and all that, but that one shot theirs I think would kill that from continuing on. And it was so popular, of course, they came out and they started doing a series of it, but it ended pretty bloody if I remember correctly.
Splinter died in the first issue. Splinter, excuse me, Shredder.
Shredder.
Shredder
Yeah.
was killed off in the first issue, right? They had no idea they were going to make a second one. They didn't have the money to print it, but once those first things sold out, and I mean, it was fucking serendipity that it happened. You had
Turtles.
Luck has a lot to do with
Turtles.
succeeding. It's
doing
like
martial arts.
Right.
Think about this. You're trying to sell turtles.
Right. You had a young exec trying to make his bones, right? You had Playmates, which was a Japanese market a Japanese company trying to break into the American toy market after having two barely successful products with the one-to-one scale dolls for kids. What was it? My Little Buddy and something else. My Buddy and a female version like that was My Buddy.
Kid Sister.
Kid Sister.
Yeah.
Sister.
And that was it. And it was that company.
They were around.
But anyways, that's a history lesson for another time. But Calderon, would you have picked it up?
All right. It's funny. When I was back then, I don't know, I was 14, 15 when it first came out, right? I remember reading about it in the CVG, and I've said this story before. I remember seeing the picture of the second issue, and it was like, it was a story in the Comic Buyer's Guide, and they were like, here are these guys coming out of Boston or Massachusetts, and they're making this big splash with this book. And I remember seeing that picture, and I was like, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, this isn't really that good. I could do this. I could make comics. I could do this. And those fuckers got me stuck ever since. Sons of bitches. So back then, no, I wouldn't have done it, but I was also 15. Today, though, I don't know, maybe. It's hard to say, because I do like that rough style. It's kind of grown on me.
You like the rough style of the art, not the concept.
Yeah, not the concept itself. I don't know. It was funky and weird. So it's like, I like funky and weird types of books. So it might have worked out for me. Who knows? It's definitely 50-50. But it also would have depended on the guys. Like if I would have spoken to them, and if they would have spoken to me about it passionately enough, or if they were cool enough, I'd have probably been like, okay, let's do it. You know what I mean? Because that's another portion of it. Well, if the guys you're working with,
you had one that was a jaded cartoonist, and you had the other one who was this ball of youthful energy. He was the one that was pushing the project.
Right, but I mean, the other guy was jaded. Well, just because he's jaded doesn't mean he's an asshole. He's just, he's just a little disappointed the way things turned out. Yeah. But you might meet him, might be the sweetest guy on the planet, right? And you can talk to him, sit down with him, and just talk.
And he became the smarter one.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was the smarter one, but he was definitely the stubborn one.
Well, he's the one who walked away with all the cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because he didn't want. Well, I don't want to go into this being a history, but
I'll put it to you this way: one got all the money.
Yeah.
And one is now the talent on a book that he used to own.
I know. That's fucked up.
So he's sort of like Siegel and Schustered himself.
Yeah. Well, no, because you know what? He did a lot of great stuff.
He did a lot of great stuff, but he admitted in interviews that he never listened to anyone's advice.
He didn't. He needed a fucking editor.
He said, "Well, no, exactly." It goes beyond that. He actually admitted in an interview years ago that he had the ear when he was setting up Tundra of Ian Ballantine, who was one of the publishing gods' Ballantine books, and Ballantine had been there. He was like in his 70s, 80s at that point, giving advice to Kevin Eastman, and Eastman admitted he blew off every bit of advice that Ballantine gave him and said, I probably should have listened to him, otherwise Tundra wouldn't have gone under. So he made a lot of bad decisions. He pissed away a lot of money.
Bro, he bought a used army tank and kept it in his backyard so he was supposed to play paintball. I mean, so that's disposable income.
So now, and then he had to sell his half of the turtles to his partner
Right.
who then turned around and sold it to Nickelodeon.
Remember,
So-
he got all the 60 million. Is what,
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
God,
60 million,
I didn't
bro.
know about this. I
And
didn't know
Kevin
that.
Eastman is the artist on the book that he used to own.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But
Now
remember,
that said, his art
at one
has
point
also
he had
been
these-
banging lately. It's fantastic art. Great name
Yeah.
still associated with it, but yeah, at the same time, from business and just perspective how that went down. Oof, yeah, that has to hurt.
But he also did some great stuff with the money. He had the Museum of Art, right?
Yep.
Of comic book art. I don't know, was that what Mocha became, or was that something else? I don't know.
I think that was something else. And then
Yeah, I
Laird
think that was something else.
had the Zenick, the Xeric grant,
Zurich Foundation, yeah.
which he closed down after he got all the money.
Well, no,
Look at
he closed it down because of Kickstarter.
that. Oh, he did?
Yeah, he closed it down because of Kickstarter. He said, when he started it, there was nothing there to help artists. But once Kickstarter came around, he felt it was just like, people
Yeah.
just double dipping, which makes a lot of sense. And look, to go along with J.K. Rowling, Frank Herbert, Dune, I think he was rejected 13, 14, 15 times, I think I heard at some point, but he was rejected a bunch of times before Dune was accepted. And what is it, like the best-selling science fiction novel like ever?
And
Right.
I just read recently, was it Dune was actually originally published by some automotive catalog company because he couldn't get a publishing deal with anyone.
Mm.
So the very first edition
Well,
of Dune was by this catalog publisher.
Well, even
Wow.
with J.K. Rowling, he wasn't really picked up by the editor as much as the editor's kid. If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
I think the story goes that the kid was the one that really liked the book, and the editor saw that. Other than that, I think he was going to reject her.
Well, let's bring it back to us for a second. But what about the Peonies, right? Did they pitch
Mhm.
ElfQuest anywhere else, or did they just
No.
say,
Yeah.
we're doing it on our own"?
Yeah, they had to fight tooth and nail to get it away from what was it? It's not your Star Warp. What was the company they were printing from that was in color?
But
was
that was after they'd already started, right?
Yeah, but that's the company they pitched it to, and they picked it up and they did it in color, and they had to fight tooth and nail to get it back from them. I remember that.
That
That was
Starburst or Star
Star, yeah, it was
something
Star
like that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
But that was there
Yeah,
you go.
'cause-
Starblaze Dawning.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
Daphne.
it.
I
Yeah,
was
she
gonna
owns
say,
she owns all those books. So
Look at that.
Because Colleen Duran went through that with them
She's
too.
the,
Right?
she's the
Yeah.
brains, man. She should be on the fucking show, not you.
well, actually, you're the one that shouldn't be on the show. She should be replacing you.
Motherfucker, I'm
That's
the sizzle to the steak, baby. Come on.
what did
man.
What did
Come
I tell you about
on,
fat?
man.
What
I'm
did I
the
tell you
butter
about
on
fat?
your
Fat
bread.
gets trimmed
I
off.
think that shit tastes good. Come on.
Fat gets trimmed off. You're not seasoning.
I don't know. To me, the fat catches all the flavoring. So I just
Tell
what
him,
can I say?
tell him,
So,
Lanny. Tell him, baby.
It also
Yeah.
kills you slowly.
Anyway,
too, so
Jay,
that's-
answer your own question. Would you have picked up the turtles?
I would not have. I
Mm.
would not have because I don't know how to fucking sell it, right?
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that
Well, you don't know how to spell Vicky Sticks either.
I
Ouch, man! What's with the barks today?
SPYX.
Listen, I owed him that one. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God. That company. I'm leaving. No.
No.
Oh,
We've had this conversation off camera too. So
Which I wouldn't and this one too. I wouldn't have done it because well, look, in today's market, it's not set up to support indie books in the direct market at all. So there's no way I would have been able to sell it. There's no way for an indie gem like Ninja Turtles. There's no way that has the ability to succeed in today's direct market, right? We need the crowdfunding to break through and hopefully cross over into the mainstream. Nobody has yet. Even that Berserker book, it had a ton of dough behind it, but there's no mainstream awareness about Berserker at all. But yeah, no, I mean Ninja Turtles, no, man. Yeah, and I said it earlier with the acid thing. What the hell were those guys smoking when they made this? Right? They were just trying to one up the other with character designs. Okay, the art it's gritty, but it's like, but would besides Ninja Turtles, would any of the gems that came out back then, would Grendel, Mage, ElfQuest, would you have published those, right? Would you have published Cerebus?
Well, what's funny is I would have picked up ElfQuest, because if you look at her artwork is incredible.
But it was also trending at the time. That style of fantasy was trending, dude. So you could have sold ElfQuest, right? What was coming out? You had all those different animated series about the Hobbit, right? Fantasy was not just the alternative to sci-fi, but fantasy movies were easier to produce than science fiction movies. They translated easier onto the screen. So you had that synergy, and you were able to get that out there.
We had Conan.
It's
right?
like Conan going
Beastmaster.
on in comics.
Right.
Sword and Sorcerer.
Shit. Kroll made it to the big screen. Kroll.
Kroll made the screen somehow.
I think Kroll and Cole eventually. Like they all did.
Kroll eventually, but we won't mention that because of the bigot that started it. But so that's a lot of time that's gonna come out.
Princess Bride, God, that was a great movie.
Right, but that was a book, right? That was a book,
of course. Right. But
all right, Marvel passed on ElfQuest because they told her no one will buy a fantasy comic drawn by a woman. Ooh. You see, she's the fucking brains, dude. I want to talk to her. Ninja Turtles came out when Ninja was all-time high. It didn't. Yep. I think it preceded, though. It came out prior to the Ninja movies, right? American Ninja, the show.
It came out in what, 87, 88?
No.
No,
no.
I'm talking
about Ninja Turtles. I'm talking about Ninja Turtles.
I think Ninja Turtles was 82, 83, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was early. It was 82, 83, 84. And Shokazuki and those guys about the same time, but a little bit earlier. I would say 80, 79, 80. Yeah, because I was a kid watching those stuff. I was watching that stuff in the theater when I was a kid.
Because I remember the third one came out in 87.
Right. Probably.
That was the one from Electric Boogaloo.
Right.
Well, you also
Cynthia Rothrock? Is that her?
No.
She came out later, right?
Cynthia Rothrock was later, yes.
Remember, in comics at that time, for several years, G.I. Joe at Marvel had been outselling even the X-Men. It was selling so hot. I mean, it was the hottest book in comics. And what was that? That was Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. It was all about the ninjas, really. Right. That was your star characters in that book, and that's why that book was doing so well. But that book outsold even the X-Men for a number of years before, it started to kind of fade down toward the end of the 80s, but
but in the beginning, it had that crossover appeal that, it did better numbers than Star Wars, and Star Wars is what saved Marvel at the time. And prior to that, the other licensed property was the Conan thing that saved Marvel when they needed that money coming in. But
even still, despite there being ninjas, it was still turtles being ninjas. So.
I think Mr. C has a problem with turtles.
I don't have a problem with turtles, but I remember, when I was a kid and I was there when the turtles rose, 88, 89 is when the turtles rose. Now the comic was published in 84, by the way. Anyway, so 88, 89 was when the cartoon hit, the independent movie hit, and the toy line, right? So that's when they started to rise to prominence. But that was always the case. Well, they're turtles. Turtles are slow. that was the mind.
That was the hook behind it.
That's how absurdity makes for a great story.
Oh, it does.
Why are you stereotyping turtles?
I'm not. I'm just telling you what I got. It's kind of like, you remember that time when you were a geek and it wasn't cool? Well, I remember that time too.
Yes, I remember. But my question was a little bit of a backdoor question, right? And I brought it up.
Are you a backdoor man? Is that what this is all about?
Only on the weekends, Alan, and there's 4 hours left. But no, it was, it wouldn't have been able to survive in today's market. And I think that's a big problem with comic books today. I think after the distributor wars, the direct market killed the industry. It did. Right. They had that big boost of selling millions of copies when Image popped up, right? And they stopped thinking about other places to sell the books. And because they thought, oh, this was it, right? We were going to be selling millions of copies every month. And they stopped thinking of other alternative places. And there was less distributors out there to latch on to a new product, something different that they can sell into stores.
So wait a second. You're saying Marvel? What was your supposition there?
I really am
Yeah.
pleased with this. But it's kind of backtracking to what is going on today in the industry.
Right.
Where are we seeing that industry is dying? Where are we hearing that there's 2,000 or stores or less, right, selling this limited amount of product? We also hear that Marvel and DC are overcrowding the shelves and drowning out smaller products that could possibly be on the shelves. But when you have one distributor or two now, but going back to prior to the distributor wars, when there were multiple distributors, right? We have a lot of boutique distributors out there, but none of them have the foothold that Friendly Franks or Capital City, Heroes World, none of them have the foothold that they did back then. And they had differences between distributors, something that they can latch onto. Yeah, were they all selling Marvel books? But some of them may have been selling Comic-Con. Some of them may have been selling, oh my God, what was Neil Adams' company?
Well, there was Eclipse, there was Continuity, there was
First. And each one of them was finding their niche, right? Their core team that they can push into stores. We don't have that today.
Well, I mean, the thing that destroyed the industry was exclusivity. I mean, when Diamond took everybody exclusive, that's what did it. That's what killed all the other distributors. And the distributor war was only between Capital City and Diamond. And unfortunately, Capital City, the better company, lost, right? Because Image made the decision in the end to go with Diamond. Right. And we are where we are.
We are where we are.
Right. We are. Yeah. But here's the other question, and this is something we discussed, right? Is we say the industry is dying, but is it really? Right? Because there's plenty of guys out there doing what we're doing through Kickstarter, through Indiegogo,
yes.
Right? And there's guys raising hundreds of $1,000s, some 10, 20, some of us are stuck at 3, 4, 5,000, but hey, listen, we're making money, right? And we still have other venues that we can go through to sell these books. So
right,
I mean,
there's dying and there's transforming,
right?
Transforming, but it's transforming. Or I see it as we're not breaking through to customers who are outside of comics. We're not, unless you're going to look for a comic book, you're not going to find us. You're not.
Well, the thing is,
that spontaneity that's not available anymore.
Are you looking to convert customers or find old customers?
I think we need to convert customers.
Right. But they're being converted. It's called manga. It's called Dog Boy. Those are the guys converting.
Okay. I'm just gonna say that's where all the new people are coming in. They're coming in for Attack on Titan and stuff like that,
Chainsaw Man and all those things. So I mean, right.
But I think that's his point. I think that's his point. It's they're coming in on Chainsaw Man and Attack on Titan and stuff, which is odd properties. But the mainstream and everything else is not really tackling on those weird properties. They're not tackling that. It's your superheroes. It's your same thing going on.
But here's the thing, though.
And if you're doing superheroes now, if they haven't seen you in a Marvel or DC movie, they don't want to hear about you. Sometimes it's like they're still they're looking for Iron Man and Captain America.
I wanna capitalize on what you're saying, Alan. After JD brings up his point, go ahead.
Hold on, but here's the thing, though. Us as independents, I'm not too concerned about what Marvel and DC is doing, to be honest with you. I mean, okay, that's fine. They're going to do what they do. They've been crowding us off the shelves for years. That's just their MO. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. But us as independent creators, why is it that we have all seen, right? We know what's working today, right? Why have we not adapted it? Why have we not moved into black and white comics, printed on garbage paper, printing them in thicker volumes, and trying to sell them through bookstores? Why haven't we not moved in that direction? Creating thicker books, $10, $12, $14, $15, right?
Okay.
And try to move books like that. We can
Okay.
still do the comics we're doing today. Hold on. We're still do the comics we're doing today, and then reformat them to be in that format, right?
Okay.
You know, but yet we hold on because we like color, right? And we like the things we like. We like our normalcy. We like our sameness, right? So that's the question. You know, do we have to change? Because maybe that's the problem. Maybe we haven't changed. Maybe we need to change.
Okay.
And it's not the market that needs to change. We need to change with the market.
Okay. I hear you, and I got a few points to hit on what you said. Going back to Alin for a second, you brought up the Iron Man and stuff like that. Yeah, but when it hits the screen, the sales aren't coming back into the stores, right? They know. I think I was listening to a Publishers Weekly podcast last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. And they were talking about this, and they're not doing that with the mainstream Western stuff, right? With the Marvel or DC stuff. Yet, when a new anime hits, right, or converge from webtoons or whatever, those sales are translated in the stores, right? They're backtracking. Where's that disconnect? I don't know. Is it a good thing that it's happening? Yeah, because it still shows that there's life here, right? It shows that there's going to be a future. It shows that there's going to be future customers. So that's awesome, right? Why is that disconnect? I don't know. But going back to JD for a second, has that been tried, right? Who says we can't do both? I want to go back to Eric Larson for a second. All right. Eric Larson has been producing, you know, Eric Larson for me is independent Mount Rushmore, right? Because he's stuck with his title all these years. He's been there doing his, but see, he's tried to do things, dude, right? He did the 500-page compendium in black and white, reprinting older titles that you talked about. And that's it. Nobody spoke about it. Nobody promoted it. It just happened. It happened, and it fell off the shelves. It wasn't reordered. It wasn't a sales success that they wanted it to be. And that's the thing. If there's a sales,
but hold on now. Dave Sim had done it way before him. He was the first person that I know of that ever did the phone book, right? It comes from him, Dave Sim, and he did sell a metric shit ton of those books. Yeah, you know, and he printed them over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's done very well for himself over the years.
Yeah, folks will buy.
What's up, Control? Control's another guy I've known for like a million years. So, but yeah, man. I mean, it's a I don't know. It's a very interesting subject. But hold on, the two of us have been going back and forth. Let's
yes.
Yeah. Marcus, how do you feel about it? You're a publisher.
Yeah, I'm a publisher, and I'm also a business analyst by day job. So my mind is constantly on what markets are doing, where the money is, where the people are, and how things happen. The thing that we see with Indy Comics is not specific and beholden to Indy Comics. It happens to everything. To the largest corporations in the world. I deal a lot with Amazon. Amazon's like fucking broke right now. like the shit that they're doing. Like this is Amazon, a behemoth. Like to print their own money, you know. And if they're going through a contraction in today's market, it's something that's going to affect every industry, and you can't change a market. The market has to change or what you have to do has to change to the market. You can't go against the tide that is what consumers are doing, because they are the basis. And if the consumers aren't there, or they're supported through a certain avenue, your only options are to capitalize on that avenue or build an avenue for yourself, which subtracts the customer base from them. And it's a constant tug of war. That's literally what every single corporation and company in the world is doing, is fighting over that basis to get more of that market share and get more value. So what we are doing through Indie Comics is that we are basically losing market share to major publishers. And I don't want to say it's the same thing, because I think, especially if you interact with people enough at cons and everything, the people who are backing the manga and it's a very different customer base than the people that are coming and picking up the comics. Sometimes it's a crossover. But in many cases, if they're cool with it, they really like it. If you have something that maybe appeals to them, you get them to the table, they pick up those things. But by and large, it's hit or miss. Like you can't really predict it.
I don't think indie publishers, indie creators should even concern themselves with market share. That's not something they're going to understand. That's not something none of us are going to be able to achieve or address in any way. Right? We'll be lucky if we got 1% of 1%. Right? But yes,
100%.
but building our own lane is the key. 100%.
Yes.
Subtracting. I understand you're subtracting yourself by building your own lane, but you need to build that own lane to prop yourself up. You do. So you're adding. I don't want to say customers, but you're adding to your community, right? Because
yeah, exactly.
I can't say I have customers or fans like that because there's nobody out there waving a flag of Unstoppable Comics. Do I have a community that I've built around my product, right? That they'll support the product? Yes, I can say that.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of the key things. And what we're seeing in the indie comic space, I mean, there's so many indie comic creators, more than there ever has been in the history of the entire world. And you know, the uncomfortable thing to say is that even though some of us get along, we're friends and we're contemporaries and every that, you're also my competition. At the end of the day, if you got Kickstarter up at the same time I got Kickstarter up, or we're at a con together, you got a booth and I got a booth, we are competing for dollars.
Oh fuck yeah!
At the end of the fucking day.
Hold on, gentlemen. Hold on. It's a good segue. All right. So please, Marcus.
Whose project is that? Yeah.
so let us know. What are we looking at here, sir?
All right, you guys are looking at the Kickstarter I currently have up for The Last Herald #1. This is a title written by Mr. Roger Landis, illustrated by Jorge Copo. This is a dark fantasy title centered around the character of Father Turin, the Last Herald, who has the power to wield the abilities of both saints and demons, who gets caught up in a conflict that threatens to basically descend the world into chaos. So this is the first issue that we got up. It's already produced. I've got it right here. Hands right now. Books have been printing. We've been selling them for a while, but we're trying to extend the print run, get it in front of some more eyes, so we threw it up on Kickstarter. This one is hopefully going to be our first shot at some real long form stuff, because mostly everything that we got going on is going to be a limited series or a kind of 6 issues and other. This one is going to be sort of like a test to see if we can get something a little bit longer coming in. So right now we are, I think, 62% funded or so. Just launched a couple of days ago, so going pretty well so far. And we got some good rewards and some really cool things that we're trying to do with this one. They're a little bit different than some things you may have seen for other Kickstarters, and different from things that we typically have done before too.
All right, cool. Now, how many? You said this was a bit more long form. Now, as far as arcs are concerned, how many issues do you think this current arc will?
This current arc will probably go for 4 to 5 before like the next arc will sort of kick in. And that's the difficult thing to do too with the indie space, is try to draw that attention for a long time. Like JD, you get all of my love and respect and appreciation for Oswald Chronicles, and I back everyone that you put out too. I think just so it's always key to go and see, like, man, what's JD doing that he's keeping people coming back and keeping me going back, that is really catching on and it resonates with people. I'm trying to do a little bit of that myself. So we brought a lot of creators together, even myself contributing some artwork and to the rewards too. And we could go into some of those, because we're trying to do this one, keep it relatively slim and lean. We know it's holiday season. People are short on money these days, but try to offer as much as we can for the smallest amount of dollar value as possible.
Nice, very nice.
Oh, who did that stunning piece down there that you're just hovering?
This one?
Yeah, that was my piece right there. I did trading card art.
Because it's funny. It said Marcus McNeal trading card, and I'm like, did Marcus draw himself on the card?
Nah, I wish I could draw a head of hair like that.
I expected your picture to pop up. I was like, "Where's Marcus?"
There we see a variant cover. That's from Federica Manson and Marta Gasparoni, who just did what we did with the world in it. Our team from that came over and contributed. So I'm always happy when people who are already within Odyssey like coming aboard and helping out and doing more with the group too.
Very nice.
This one I'm excited about too. We're doing World Anvil. So to what we were saying earlier, editing wise, when you're doing a book, especially something fantasy that's thick with lore, and you do not want to be overstuffing it, everything. We're already kind of committing to cardinal sin. I started with like a scroll of text to start the book, but it's kind of necessary though, and just gives you everything you need to know. Backers to be able to follow around with the World Anvil and learn more about the world and things like that, so they can just get as deep into it as they really need to. And then in between books, they can follow along with the narrative as we build it and then see it when it actually comes out. So that's going to be a cool opportunity for people to come down into both the creative process and lore, do things like that. And this is a custom Hero Forge. This one was a popular one that we did back in the Nobody's Princess campaign. Actually got them ready to go here. They came out super nice. We're also going to be doing one for this, so you can incorporate it into your D&D or tabletop campaigns, or just have it as a cool keepsake and piece to have on your shelf too.
Very nice. Love that. Now, how tall are they? Was it 1 or 2 inches?
Yeah, I think let me grab them. They're about 1 inch, so they're in the traditional sort of size that you'll typically see. God, I don't want to dig all through these things and open them. But yeah, they're standard size.
Show us
Figures. So this is the one that we did for Nobody's Princess. So as you can see, good size,
awesome.
not too tight. Nice. Hero Forge, like I have my own 3D printers and stuff, but like I can't beat the quality they go with. It's so nice, prep ready for paint, whatever you want to do with it. And like I said, it works great. It's just a piece to have for collectors of tabletop minis, and then people who also, might be looking for something they could incorporate in their campaigns and stuff like that. I'm still debating, working with a friend or not, whether we want to make like a sort of D&D capsule for any of the projects we work with, but that's something I'll have to explore down the road. I'm too busy with other stuff to worry. People can be creative themselves and get down on that end. And then metal covers. That one we first did on the campaign for what we did with the World End. And actually, I got them back. So this is the metal cover right here. The covers, there we go. They are printed on real aluminum. So this is solid metal right here. I wish it could translate as well on the screen as it does in person. Oh, you can see it like a little bit. So it's got a good amount of like reflectivity and highlight stuff. This is gorgeous. Like I can't believe this is something that like we made and came up with. The art looks fantastic on it. The finish is awesome. The printing is awesome. These have done super well. I think pretty much our campaign is at where it's at right now, off the strength of just doing these alone. These are super limited. We do not do additional of these. They are exclusive to Kickstarter. So with people back, that is what is made and produced, and there will never be another one basically again that we will reproduce like these. We're trying to do more and more exclusive things just for the Kickstarters to make sure that people who back and like support it at the highest tiers, they get something that's truly special. That isn't going to be replicated. You're not going to see it at our con tables. It's not going to be on our web store, nothing like that. It's just 100% yours.
Nice. Now I was going to ask you, I was thinking of doing those. How's the inside? Does it like, I don't know, is it glued in? Because I mean, how does that work with those?
In this case, you can get them staple bound or glued in, so you don't have to do additional. These are perfect bound, so they are glued, and they're pretty much standard, just like any other graphic novel. So paper quality is really good, and there's not any issue opening it or anything like that. The one thing I'm protective about is just where it goes. You don't want to scratch it or nick it, but I'm not the most careful person in the world. I've just been having this sit out like uncovered, and it's pretty spotless right now. I'm not sure what finishing technique they use for the aluminum, but it's pretty stain resistant and scratch resistant.
Nice. That's awesome.
We got more add-ons too. You can pick up some t-shirts. We try to make a lot of the things available to the other tiers also available. I think the only truly exclusive things are the metal covers and the Hero Forge minis, because they are expensive, so they cost a lot to get out and do, and it's not very easy to massage any sort of discounts from Hero Forge on those. So I think tiers start at $5 just for digital. For $10, we try to offer a really good tier, so you get for $10 the entire Odyssey digital catalog. So everything that we have produced so far, you get a digital download of it. The physical tier start at $15, and we don't have like a whole lot of fluff or anything like that put in. Like I said, just trying to keep it really lean and then give everybody a solid amount of things they could do. Working towards what we can do for stretch goals and get some more things going in there as well. But yeah, right now we're hoping to close this one out early and not have as much of a stressful time as a couple of the last projects that we did. And it looks like we're getting there so far. So any support from here would be greatly appreciated. Close it out early.
Nice. All right, you got stretch goals set up. That's good.
Yep. Our ideal goal is to get issue 2 additionally funded, so we can go straight into that. The team's already been at work for it. We got a few preview pages up for that one too. So it just shows the commitment that we're doing to the story. Really just trying to, keep it rolling as much as we can and stay steady on the production. We're going with JD Comics for this one. They're doing all the printing for this one. The ones that I have right now are glossy, but I started experimenting with matte print. The matte really came out like beautiful for the cover. Like everyone sees it at the con, and it's one of our top sellers whenever I do a convention because just on the cover alone, it's like that looks awesome. I just want that as a piece of artwork within itself. They are U.S. based, right in Arizona. I'm in California. They usually get my books to me in about 2 weeks tops.
Nice.
So we can look forward to a really quick fulfillment. I've already got copies ready to go and ship, prints all ready to go and ship. So once we hit funding, it's just getting the variants taken care of and the extras that we're doing for awards, and we're ready to roll.
Very nice. No, this looks awesome, man.
Thanks.
All right, cool. I mean, look, I don't think you're gonna have an issue funding, so
You never know these days. You stay home.
it's been a little rough these last few months, but the thing is I think you're putting the work in. The work is there, so I think you're not gonna have that big of an issue.
Yeah, and I think thankfully it comes into, even though a lot of people don't want to do Kickstarters in December, I'm like, hey, this can actually work for us because the field is going to be a lot thinner in December.
Yep.
Roll something out. We're not coming in with a big, super lofty, crazy goal or anything like that. Pretty straightforward, get it out, get it done campaign. And I think that's worked to our favor so far. There's not a whole lot of Kickstarters out right now that we have to compete with. So we've got a lot more visibility on this one than we had in our last project. Was just like absolutely buried by the algorithm, is like pulling teeth getting backers, and especially get them into the higher tiers. So to see backers come out already and they're supporting at the higher tiers and grabbing like a lot of digitals and moving the thing along pretty quickly, that's been awesome to see.
And look, and here's the thing, your campaign is running 30 days, so you're going to be after the holidays, which is good because then people have all that whatever money they didn't spend. They're like, oh, I got all this cash now.
Or if they got cash for Christmas.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Some people get cash cards, and that's they have excess money. They can buy books, which is awesome. So hopefully that'll work out. Mr. Lanning, your question, sir.
Yeah, I guess in the vein of the editing question. So, how important is it that the editor likes the genre that they're editing?
I can tell you.
Hold on. Hold on. It's Marcus's turn. Let him. Marcus.
Is it my turn? I think I went last time. I think we might skip to someone else.
What?
So I think I'll answer the last question first. So I think it might be on someone else.
All right. So, well, then it would be Steve.
Do you have to like it though? It helps, but if you're a professional editor, you can work around that. As JD will tell you, I'm not a fan of fantasy in any form, but I'll edit it because what I'll focus on is the story and the characters and how well that's put together. I once worked with a science fiction writer who said, I'm going to put a lot of hard science in this. And I said, you can put as much hard science in. I'm going to trust you. But if the story sucks, I'm going to come down your throat. And that's my approach to it. So it helps if you're into the genre. It's not absolutely necessary if you're professional enough to do the work.
All right, cool. Alan, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I have experience with this. I had a lot of novels thrown at me from different genres that I wouldn't necessarily read, and it does come down to like, is this a good story or not? And it's like, fortunately, I can enjoy anything if it's a good story. I don't really care about the genre as much. I have genres I prefer, but if you give me a story and it's a good story, I'll read it and I'll edit it. And if you hand me crap, I'll hand it back to you and say this is crap and it needs more work. But I don't care what genre it came out of. It's like if I'm trying to follow it, it's like it's still got to work. So it's like for me, it's like I would say, no, you don't have to prefer that genre. It's easier for you as an editor. I mean, I agree, Steve. As an editor, it's easier for you if you actually really get into the genre. If you don't really get into genre, then the story is going to have to work a lot harder to grab you. But that doesn't mean you can't give it your best, even if it's not your genre. It's just a matter of like, well, is the writing, is the story working? You can still find that, whether it's working or not, even if it's not your genre, story structure, that kind of thing, what people are gonna, connect with when they're reading it. And then you have to just kind of take that on. Now it does help to know the audience, and that's what I'll ask people. If it's a genre that I'm not as familiar with or I'm not the audience for, it's like I will ask them about like, okay, so is this kind of a thing, is this part of like a trope that you have to do, for your market, for that genre's market? It's like you need to kind of get a feel for like, is this going to hit them or not? And it's like, so you might not know because you're not the target audience for this thing, but you can ask questions and you can research it and kind of figure that out, and then you can kind of take that into your work as you go in as an editor. It's like, does this seem like this is going to reach the target market? Is this going to appeal to them? You have to do a little research. You have to become a little bit of that market yourself. And I've had to do this for years with different things. It's like you become a little bit of that market yourself somehow, whatever you can. You dip your toe in being part of that market so you can relate, so you can actually do a better job. And, it's worth it for the right projects.
All right, cool. All right, Marcus, your turn now.
Yeah, this one is like logic would almost tell you like you have to be, but in my experience, both as an editor and as a writer, it's not always the case. Actually, sometimes if you're not a fan of the genre, you can bring in insights that people might not see otherwise, and come up with ideas otherwise. I sort of went through that on When the World Ended because there was a horror comic. Obviously, I haven't done a horror comic yet. I don't read horror comics. I'm not a super big fan of horror comics, like occasional things here and there. Like I think the only horror comic I ever read was Walking Dead, and that was partake of one I was enjoyed and gravitated towards. But usually when I go to pick up a book on the shelf, like horror isn't something I'm usually drawn to. So I had to come in as an editor and try to do story editing for a genre which I wasn't all that familiar with, and it's just about having that open mind. It's like, okay, I'm not Marcus McNeal, editor on this project coming in. I'm the reader who is picking this up because I saw the cover and I'm interested and I'm flipping through it. And like, what am I looking for at these key moments? And what am I looking for these beats to hit? And I was actually able to like, oh, I think it would be cool if you did this and this and this. Actually, let's add 2 more pages to the story. Here's some direction on where I think you can take it and where the story can like languish a little bit more. You're doing horror, so up the tension in these areas, try to make all that come through. And the writer Muhammad was great on that. And he actually took my suggestions to the heart and almost kind of wrote like verbatim the notes that I gave him. That was really cool to see. I'm thankful for a lot of writers that I work with to be really cool. I don't think I've ever had the beef with anybody about taking notes from me or anything like that. And then when I do a project, Erin Keepers, who's the writer on Nobody's Princess, which we publish, she's usually my editor. And me and her are very different in terms of what we like. We're very similar in how we approach story and like how structure and things like that work for us. So like we're pretty simpatico when it comes to there. But as far as the content, we're very different. She likes things that are a bit more, I would say, I don't want to say feminine in approach, but sort of have that feeling vibe to it, while I'm on the masculine in the side of things. So like, she's writing stories about their characters more embroiled in drama and comedy and things like that. And I'm writing more about characters that are in action and splitting each other's guts open. That's also embroiled in comedy and things like that. But she's able to view my work and see my story and give me some really great notes. And I think on the last story we went through, I took like she gave me probably like 10 notes, and I went back and rewrote and adjusted for every last note that she gave me. And when you are able to have that rapport with someone, whether they're a fan of the genre or not, when they understand that structure, and most of all understand what you're going for and what the audience needs, and give you feedback based on that, that's what matters first and foremost. So it can help, but at the same time, I don't think it'd be a hindrance to anyone as long as they're approaching it the right way.
All right, cool. Mr. Rosario, what are you thinking?
You getting paid for it?
Am I get paid for it?
Well, listen. Yeah.
You get paid for it, then you like it. You like it because you get paid for that shit.
But that's not what I'm asking, though.
Well,
but let's take for instance. Okay, I'm a writer and I'm looking for an editor. Do I want to pick an editor that is leans and likes my genre, or is it just okay to get a good editor?
I think you would fall into the latter. Because if they, and this is touched maybe on something that Alin said earlier, if they like it, they may let certain tropes go through, the process because, that's what character A always does when they're in this type of situation. Where if you are, not so invested in that genre, then you are like Marcus said, you are going to be doing your due diligence, right? And Alin, you are going to be doing a little bit more research. Okay, it's not just let this person go through the door. There's certain other things that you need to tackle before they pass through that step. So yeah, no, you want to go for the person who's best for the job, not because we're good. You have that rapport, like Steven said. You don't want them to be friends with you.
Yeah, and the thing about those tropes is in some cases it's like they have to be there for that genre. It's like if that's not there, that people who read that genre will not be satisfied. So you have to know that too. It's like you can't take out, certain things, like if you're doing something for let's just say Hallmark, for example, it's like there's certain things that are in all your Hallmark movies type of things. And it's like if you don't have that there, the people who read that or like that kind of stuff are going to be very disappointed. So you have to know that.
Oh, you mean the woman showing up in a new town? It's the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's Christmas.
Pretty much that's some of that stuff has to be there. That's
what Alin was saying, that's actually one of the hard things to do too. I'm glad Alin pointed this out because me and Aaron were actually having a back and forth during the whole development of Nobody Princess. We were trying to get number 4 super buttoned down and had the script ready to go. We're not working on immediately right now, but it's let's make sure the script is 100%. And for the finale of it, usually if you're sort of in the fantasy genre or something like that, you gotta capitalize the final act. You gotta do it with a big sword fight and swashbuckling and everything like that. That has to be there. And she wasn't putting it into the finale. It was kind of like a subversion of what you expect. I was like, okay, I can see where you're going for, but at the same time, if I was a reader, especially the way you built up things progressing throughout the story, or where the action goes and how it goes, I'm expecting that to be there. And if it's not there, I may accept what's going on, but I might not love it in the finale. And we're still kind of what are we going to do with this and how are we going to do? So I'm doing exactly what Alin is saying. It's I've done enough research into this that I know what the audience is looking for and I know the trope, but it's not there. And how am I going to coach the writer to come along and see things from my perspective? And then I was kind of let it go. Like, okay, if you really, really think that that's best for the story, like I said, when you have, it's like it works. Like, it's not that it's awful or anything like that. Like, far from it. But like, I'm just saying, if people aren't super into it, this is why, and this is what's missing, and what they might be looking for. And you gotta be like willing to live with that.
All right, cool. I guess for myself, you know what it is, I won't answer it as an editor. I'll answer it as a writer. I know when I worked professionally, when they presented me the jobs that were offered, none of those were anything that I was really interested in, but I adapted. Like Jay says, I was getting paid. So, you know, you got interested fast, right? And you adapted. And that's what I did. I mean, I wrote adult comics based around ninjas and you know, just like insane what is it, tantric sex magic, right? So I was like, okay, so let's move into this. And then I did another space opera with which was just a straight comic, and that was a lot of fun. But it's nothing I would have ever done on my own. You know, just to put it that way, it's nothing I would have ever done on my own. But when it was presented to me, I was like, okay, let's read it, let's look at it, let's break it apart, let's deconstruct it, and how can I construct something that's going to be fun and engaging for everybody, not just for the reader, but also for myself and for the editors and for everybody involved. You know, and I think I did an okay job. They called me back for more work, so
that's a win.
Right, exactly. They called me back for more work. So, Mr. Lanning, answer your own question, sir.
But I'm not an editor.
Well, as a creator, like I said, I'm not an editor either. So.
Well, let me show you the origin of this, though.
Mm-hmm.
Taking your artwork and showing your artwork. Say you have a Disney afternoon style, and you're showing it to Neil Adams, or maybe not even Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson, right? Okay. So you could do that, and he's going to have some pointers for you, but he's not going to have necessarily pointers to specify or to be specific to your style. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So and I just kind of wondered if that translated over to writing and editing. And I think Alin answered it brilliantly in the fact that, yeah, it really boils down how the story is, and he'll find out. If he doesn't know that trope, he'll go and see if he needs that trope or how the audience responds to it. And that's kind of where the origin of the question came from. So,
well, I'll throw in an example. I was approached by a horror writer once. He had a 400-page manuscript, and he wasn't sure if he actually wanted me to edit it for him. So I said, okay, let me take the prologue and I'll edit it and show you how much I'm going to beat the crap out of you. And I'll do it for free, just so you can see if you're fine with that, then we'll move ahead. So I did that, and I literally tore the shit out of his prologue and came back to him and showed it to him. And he was fine with that. And I said, now here's the question that I have, because I kind of skipped ahead and I was looking at the story as it progressed. Who is your lead character in this book? Because there seemed to be 3 or 4 of them. And he said, I don't know.
Oh, no.
And I was hoping you could tell me. And I said, you know what? Now we're not working together, because you're not paying me enough to figure out your own book for you when it's 400 pages long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's...
How do you write 400 pages without a lead character?
Because he got really caught up in all the characters he created, and he wanted to have them all in the story and all that. Okay, fine. Pick a through line for your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he couldn't find one, so he wanted someone to pick it out for himself. And I went, no, I'm not. It's not worth the effort. I'll get frustrated. You'll get frustrated, and the book won't get done. So I handed it back to him. It's the thing that's most frustrating as an editor from a writer is if you get lazy as a writer. Because Alin was talking about research. If you get writers who don't bother to actually research what you're writing about, don't bother us. Because I've had books, novels, comics, where if you're just making assumptions on, say, you live in, say, Montana, and you're writing about New York, but you don't actually decide you're going to do any research on New York, don't hand it to a New York editor who's going to say, you didn't look anything up. You didn't even look at a map of the city. And I've had that done with authors in the past where they can't be bothered to do the research. The good ones are willing to listen. The bad ones just kind of shrug and go, oh, well, as one guy put it to me, it's just a story. Don't ever tell me that.
Bless your heart,
So
Steve.
if you're going to be a writer and you want to deal with an editor, do your job too, so that they don't have to do your job for you. I edited a book once where it was so bad that I handed it off to the author and said, I hope you like the edits. I've sent it to the typesetter. No discussion, no argument. You're done. Don't ever hand me shit like this again. And that's what writers should keep in mind. Do the research. If you're going to write about fantasy, no fantasy. You can play with the tropes. You can do, and in fact, I don't mind people playing with tropes, because taking a left turn gets you away from just doing, just same like everybody else. Do a Tolkien, take a left-hand turn and find another way to approach that story. But don't have, as on a science fiction novel once, spend 300 pages of somebody trying to figure out a murder mystery in a science fiction book and then have a secondary character walk in and solve it for you.
Never. That's
Because then I said, and then Columbo walked in and solved the. What is that?
That's never acceptable.
So writers, do your job. It makes our jobs easier.
All right. Cool. All right, we got a few minutes left. I got one last question. Right? The year is coming to an end, right? So I want to know, guys, of one solid win for you guys this year, right? A goal that you achieved this year and a goal that you're looking to achieve in 2023, right? So I think, Alin, you're up.
Oh, my up. Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, okay. So I had a really rough year. I had a couple of major surgeries this year, which pretty much sideswiped my whole year. But I had started this thing last year. I had come up with this. I was looking around at a lot of indie creators who had these characters that were really Halloween based kind of characters. And I reached out to a few guys. I said, hey, you guys want to get together and throw these guys into a book and do some stuff with them, And there were a few guys, Carlos Raphael, who was in here a minute ago, one of those guys. And it's like they throw me back some characters, and I'm like, okay, let's do something with this. And I went out and I commissioned an artist to do like a really nice kind of like pinup of each of the characters that I got. And I threw that back at them, and they're like, yeah, let's go for it. So we sort of started putting this thing together. And when I was in Dublin back in 2019, I had gone to Dublin to see my cousin who lived there at the time. And I wound up at this Comic-Con. I found this kid at the Comic-Con who was just drawing. And he had a table, and he had a really nice, banner of a character that he created. And I thought, this guy's got something coming up. He's got some of that raw talent that's gonna evolve really fast, and people are gonna glom onto it. So I approached him with this thing, and he jumped in and started doing it. We did this one cover, and we put it up, and people went ape crap for it, and now they're all over it, and they've been hiring him for stuff. And it's like, this is the guy that's drawing our thing. So we kickstarted it, and it was the biggest Kickstarter I've ever had. For Pop Skull. The big success was, having all these extra creators involved in their characters and stuff. So that actually kickstarted and succeeded and funded. And so that's kind of the big one for the year. It's like that turned out to work out. And that was this Halloween thing that I just kind of had this like just funny, like I like that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's kind of a fun idea. Let's try it. And it seems to have worked out all right. So now we got to finish the book. But so that was kind of like a big thing this year. Was really, really happy with that. That went well, considering everything else I had to deal with this year. I was I was glad to get that win. Next year, I've got the next issue of at least one more issue next year, if not another issue of Spies Among Us, my superhero series. It's kind of a little bit weird. And I've been sitting on this steampunk comic that I've got. Basically, it's all drawn, colored, and everything else. I just haven't had it lettered, and I've been sitting on it because I want to really build it up before I launch it. Because I'm like, it's steampunk and it's good, and it really deserves my full attention. And of course, I haven't been able to give anything my full attention this year. So in the new year, I'm hoping to be able to give that my full attention, and then get that out and get the second one done. I might even try to launch it with the first 2 issues ready, so that it's like, boom, here's issue 1 and here's issue 2, right out of the can, so we'll see how that goes, but I'll have at least the first one. And that's kind of my look is next year, to sort of like be able to start branching out a little bit on those. And then I'm also hoping to get back in some of my novel writing next year. So I've been basically kind of knocked off the horse here for the last few years, and I'm just like, next year I just kind of want to get back on it.
Nice. Okay.
But I have all these things sitting in the can. I'm ready to go, So.
Listen, man, that's why we're going into the new year, right?
Yeah. I hope it's better than this one.
Yep. I know exactly where you're at.
Limped through this one.
Marcus, what are your thoughts?
Oh,
I'm sorry, Alin. No, finish.
No, it's just. I mean, you can't say that's all bad. You got to focus on those really. I mean, it's. I tend to like downplay it in my mind and overlook it. It's like, no, but that was really amazing that I actually got a Kickstarter out this year, and it took a lot of help from a lot of guys and stuff, but we got it. We got this thing out, and it was like, you don't want to downplay that. You want to really like celebrate that, especially after what you went through this year. It's like, take the win,
Yeah.
Take the win. So it's a big win,
Yep. Listen, I mean, Jay knows, Marcus knows, I know. Steve hasn't done one yet. C hasn't been there yet, but Marcus and Jay know. I know. It's not easy doing a Kickstarter, and we know it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and I mean, you just got to keep at it, and that's what you did, and that's why you were successful, man. You're going to keep being successful. You just got to keep going at it,
Do it.
Marcus, what are you thinking?
Man, it's I'm kind of like in awe, like a little bit of like how things are going, because like not a lot of people know how new and recent like Odyssey is. Like this is our first calendar year like in the book, and it came out last year with just it was just me and Aaron and our like small team of like what we were doing and trying to get things done. So basically trying to do 2 books. And I just inked a deal for our 9th book in just that amount of time.
Wow.
35 creators working within Odyssey right now. That's not even counting the anthology that we got coming down the pipeline and in the works. It's going to come early in 2023. Still more stuff there. The stuff I'm keeping close to the chest is still in a process, and it's been a lot of wins, and like I try to not lose track of it, because when you're doing all this stuff, and for us that have done publishing and doing comics and running Kickstarters and trying to do all this, like trying to do 9 comics in like 1 year, it's fucking hard. It's really hard. It's outgrown me. I've broken myself down emotionally probably 3 times already, and I keep going through these back and forths of like, oh my god, do I really want to be doing this and everything? But at the end of the day, I always do it if people are coming to me and trusting me to publish and market and push their stories. Like they deserve like my 100% and my best efforts, like all the time to get it done. And the quality of people that I've been working with, and like how awesome everyone has been to work with and collaborate with, and like whenever I see pages coming back or doing stuff, it's just like it wows me. I'm like, and I look around sometimes at all these comics piling up, getting ready for fulfillment and everything like that, and just like, holy shit, like I'm actually doing this. I'm really doing this, and it's been absolutely like life changing, you know, and it's you know, something that I plan on doing as long as I'm able to do it, you know, until I run out of money or mental faculties and probably still try to do it some more, you know, after that. So it's been a massive year for us, and 2023 is poised to be just the same. So our goal is to, now that we have so much in the can, really make that next push and go for distributorship and try to get our books in the comic shops and try to get into, you know, Diamond or Lunar or anything like that. Not as the end all be all, but just like, you know, I'm that proud of the work, and I'm like, when I look at, you know, something like this, and I'm standing there looking at them like, fuck yeah, this deserves to be on the shelf. God damn, it deserves to be it. You know, that's. I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence if I don't push it and try to get it somewhere. So that's where the game is heading for us, and hopefully try to do some more stuff. I want to reach out to other publishers and try to collaborate on things. You know, I know you guys, and I'm always meeting people that have a similar mindset. And sometimes there's stuff like, hey, I wish I could do this, but like, you know, I can't do it. Or hey, you got a cool idea, like, you know, fuck it, let's work it together. Like maybe we can pal on some things for like funding or wherever the case may do, like, you know, joint efforts, wherever the case may be, because we're seeing things like that. We're seeing how the industry needs more, you know, active collaboration, more avenues, and building communities and building those opportunities for each other. That's, you know, not going to come unless we're reaching across and, you know, helping our brothers out to get to where they need to be. So that's where I'm going. So hopefully by the end of next year, we got a couple comics in, you know, stores, and, you know, we're sort of built some new avenues as a publisher and everything too, and hopefully grow my staff a little bit more. Like I've already brought on a supervising editor. Shout out to Gene No, who's now, you know, helping take loads off of, you know, my back and keep my stress levels a tad bit lower, at least just helping like this a little bit. And hopefully we'll be growing more from here too, but not too much. It's about right now we got the bases in place. Let's just see where this ride takes us from here.
All right. Sounds good. Steve, what are you looking at?
Well, this year I got to be part of that Legend of Calamity Jane Kickstarter for the comic that's coming out attached to the DVD set. So that was successful. Now we're just working on the production of the comic. So that'll come out next year. And then for Star Warp, there'll be a couple of comic projects, probably Kickstarter. One for my Lorelei Succubus character, and one for a license that I picked up to adapt a novel as a comic book. And then the third Pandora's Zweiback novel by the end of the year to end the trilogy. So those are the big plans for next year. It's the company's 30th anniversary. So I have to have stuff out next year. I haven't published in a couple of years because of COVID mostly. And because there haven't been conventions to go to sell stuff at. So it'll be a big push next year to get stuff out.
All right, cool. Mr. Lanning, what have you got?
I finally had a place that I can tell people to go to buy a comic book. As far as finally had a book that was sitting on the can for about 2 years. They finally got published this year. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't care if you go buy that one. But to be honest with you, that was a bad experience.
Take the win.
Take the win. Yeah. But I do have Calico and Shard from Arrow Comics. You can't get that one at arrowcomics.store. Plug that. Nice. So that's good. And then to get some stuff done, I've got the Doghouse. I'm finishing that up this week probably, and that's for Haslam Productions. And I know they're going to be pushing that out next year. So looking forward to that, and other things and other projects that I can't speak about per se right now that I'm looking forward to for next year. So
speak about it, Lanning.
You gotta ask the man. You gotta ask the man if it's good to talk about it.
You can talk about it. Good.
Then I got this other thing with this other guy up here. And if I don't give him some pages soon, he's gonna wring my neck.
Fuck that guy.
Listen.
He already got
That
7
guy.
pages, but that's all right.
Listen.
He's about to get an influx. He's gonna get tired of them before it's over.
Nice.
Listen. The colorist literally was like, "Bro, I need to eat this week. Please send me a page."
Well,
Nice.
guess what? So do I. I'm not getting paid till after a Kickstarter. So
I know, but I'm paying the
I gotta
colorist
get
up
paid for
front.
other
So.
ones, too. Yeah.
I know.
Uh-oh. Oh, shit. Another aftershock in the making.
That's what I'm looking to do. I am looking forward to making dozens and dozens of dollars and running away with it.
I unfortunately did that as one of my first updates after a Kickstarter was funded. I said, haha, I took all of the money and I went and I bought a brand new car. And I showed a picture of a Matchbox in the update. I'm glad you
At
guys.
least was it one of the fancy ones with flames on the side of it? I mean, the color changing ones when you drop it in the water. At least something nice, right?
Well, that's Hot Wheels that does that. I work for those guys. I work for those guys. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, that's right. You did. Say
Hot Wheels have
Matchbox,
the color
right?
changes, not Matchbox.
That's a micro machine.
Man.
Which one had the crack ups where you'd hit it and the hood
They
would
curl
bend?
crumpled. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That was
Yeah, I used to
that
have
was
those.
somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Do you remember those SSTs that you had? Like they had like a rip cord, and you sent them, and they'd go at each other.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
yes.
those are cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So-
I'm sorry. Quickly, we're all old enough. The smart cars, right? The 2-seater ones that they're just like that.
Mhm.
Oh, the look. Yeah.
Does that remind anybody of like the penny racers? Like you
Yes.
just feel like they could drop something in the back of it and send a bitch to do a wheelie down the street. No.
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry. Keep
All
going.
right. Well, Jay, you're up. How do you? Yes.
What was my crowning achievement last year? Shit, I got married, y'all.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Nice.
the best. That was the best.
Condolences to
fun
your
I
wife.
had. You know what I mean? I got somebody.
Yeah.
Got
That was
somebody to marry you. That's
Is she in for it? You know.
He catfished her.
You know? So what's the goal for next year? To keep her married to me. That's the goal.
Nice.
No, I got 6 releases lined up for next year. First one starting in January with this thing over here, New York versus World #3. It's the zombie book. After that, I've got a book called Limbo coming out, and the whole I'm publishing somebody, right? I accepted a submission, and this is the team from Colombia that I've done work with, and they're looking to just like have a presence here in the U.S. So I've got 3 of their releases lined up through the year, and that's going to be offset with my releases. So that's why I have 6 releases coming out, and I'm excited about that. And this past Friday, I finally got the last of my designs ready. My STL files for those of you who know about printing and action figures, and hopefully the the factory that's producing my stuff is not in the part of the country of China that just started protesting last month, which has been many of the delays of everything that's been happening. If anybody who knows me knows, the action figures have always been a big part. I was a G.I. Joe head growing up. That was my jam. And G.I. Joes right now, they're 6 inches. So I found something that is cost comparable to the market, and it's something that it's a good wholesale price. But I still need the numbers to get there. So it will be crowdfunded, and fuck, I am nervous because I got to shoot for, $30,000 just to get one figure produced. And that is a lot of dough, folks.
Yeah.
And for those of you that run crowdfunding campaigns, 5 figures is a unicorn. You know what I'm saying? It's a 4-leaf clover.
Mhm.
So I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
It's a tough one.
But we're still gonna go for it. We're still gonna go for it. We got a lot of tie-ins. We got a lot of support material, and hopefully we can bring some concepts to get that bad boy funded.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you have certain benefits running in your favor, though. I mean, you know, the toy section on Kickstarter tends to run differently. It's not like, you know, that crowd, and it's a much bigger crowd than
Well,
like in
actually,
comics.
you know, with taxes and shipping, it's going to run and packaging. It's going to run $23,000 for 2,000 figures, right? So, you know, that's great, but we're running it for $30,000, you know, because we need the fees to be covered, and you know, whatever other incidentals that pop up on that.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, bro, you'll make it.
Did I say
You know?
3,000 or 30,000?
You said 30.
30.
You said 30,000. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
dude, if it was 3, we could all do it. We could all chip in
You know
right
what
now
I'm
and do it.
saying?
Yeah,
You know what
I
I'm
have
saying, bro?
50 figures sitting around right now.
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't know, you know, I don't know how well you guys know this, but like a Big Bad Toy Store, they do stuff, and you know, their minimum purchase amount though is, you know, they need 500 units to be ordered for their stuff to be produced, and I'm like, that's a lot. That's a lot, man. You know,
We said, what's their minimum?
500.
They would order, or they need you to order?
They need you to order. Well, see, so the factories that I have gotten quotes from, their minimum order amount is 500 pieces.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
The MOQ is 500 pieces, but you're not making money on 500 pieces. Whether it's a 4-inch and a 6-inch. I'm sorry, inside baseball, folks. You know, a 4-inch or a 6-inch action figure. You're only looking at maybe a 70-cent difference between them. It's really nothing. So you might as well go for that, because what's going on in the market right now, you've got Target and Hasbro. They're selling, you know, 6-inch figures for $25 to $30 a pop, and whatchamacallit, that's I can hit that. I can hit that and make good margin on that. With 2,000 units, you know, 5,000 units, I can have even fucking better margin on that. But it's a lot.
Economy of scale. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, also, it's like warehousing it is gonna, you know, that's
What are we
another
talking
issue.
about? What, dude? You told me I could keep it at your place.
Dude, bring it over. You could put it in the front yard, and we'll put a sign on it. Please take one. You know? So we'll just attach that to the cases, to the actual boxes. Please take one, and then, you know,
Nice.
the neighbors, I'm sure, come over. They'll be more than happy to store it for
I'm
you.
sure. You know, but and the figure is of that guy right there behind me, and the Interceptor from my book, Shield of the Interceptor. So he's the flagship character of the Unstoppable Comics universe, the hero side, and hopefully we can do it.
Yeah, you'll make it happen. You'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. For myself, it's been a weird year. It's been tough. You know, I had some health issues as well, Alan, and you know, but it's one of those things. It was like, it was good, and it was
Right.
not good at the same time.
Bittersweet.
Right?
Bittersweet.
Yeah, it was bittersweet. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But you know, listen, I'm wrapping up a campaign. It's almost over. It did okay. They never do as well as I want them to do, so it doesn't matter. I could raise $1 million and I'd still be like, I don't know. We could have probably thrown in a couple extra 10 grand or 100 grand or whatever. But you know, it's doing okay. And my goal is always to continue doing it. You know, and what I require to do that is cash, because I'm feeding artists. So it's like, it's always a thing of just continuously moving forward in that direction. So I think we're gonna do all right. But next year, I have a number of things coming out. You know, like I said, C. Michael and myself, we have a title coming out together that we're gonna be producing together. The artwork is looking fantastic. He was, you know, he said some kind things about the story. I don't believe him. You know, see, look, see. But you know, I mean, but that's what I'm looking forward to. Is I'm looking forward to continuing Oswald and doing all this other stuff. I have a story with him, and I have a couple other stories with a couple other people. So you know, we'll see. I think
you have more stories with other people.
Other stories.
I
have a couple others. Yeah.
Yeah. He's cheating on you, Lanning.
I feel that, right?
Let me tell you.
You don't get in pages on time.
This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. But it's all about having fun, right? So we just got to keep enjoying ourselves. I think the future is bright. We can leave this year and the last couple of years behind us and just trudge on forward.
Yeah.
Just keep moving in the right direction. All right, gentlemen. I think this was awesome. I thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
Listen, we won't be here next week. So happy holidays, everyone. No, it's Christmas, man.
No special Christmas episode.
No. But Jay and I will be back on the 1st. And yes. And it's gonna be a very interesting show because we're not booking any guests. We're not even booking a co-host or a co-host. What we're gonna have is we're gonna just put the link in the stream, and it'll be like, come join us, and we will give everybody 5 to 10 minutes to come in and talk, and then we'll boot you out. So so that I think that'll be an interesting show. Maybe even for that show, maybe I'll drink. So me and Jay will be on the even.
Yes.
Jay and I will be even on that one. So all right, guys, let's take shots.
Yes. You know what? Every new guest, you got to take a shot.
Yeah, I know, right? So we'll do one every 5 minutes. It's only like 2 hours, 12 shots. Why not?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I'll get you there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have a person himself out by the end of the show. Be like, that Calderon guy is a motherfucker.
Some bitch. Not even be able to speak correctly. All right, so gentlemen, here we are. We made it to the 2 hour mark and beyond. So thank you guys. You guys were awesome. Please, let's start with Alin. Where can they find you and your work, sir?
Mostly right now on Facebook. I'm actually having my website redone, because it's sort of like try to cover everything on it. So just I have a Pop Skull Press page on Facebook, which I don't really keep updated. I actually tend to just do everything out of Alin Silverwood, but you can find me there.
Nice.
I'll be showing stuff. So Facebook is a good place for finding me right now until I get Pop Skull Productions back up. It's gonna be nicer when it comes back
up. Marcus, where can they find you and your work, sir?
Yep, easy enough to find at odysseycomics.com. You can learn all about us there. Just opened up our web store not too long ago, so now I can start browsing all of our titles and hopefully have more merch and everything coming out there too. Follow us on stumbled over my words here. Follow us on Twitter until Elon ruins everything at comics _Odyssey. You can find us on Facebook, of course, at Odyssey Comics, and on Instagram too at Odyssey Comics Official. If you want to find me personally, you hit me up at d.m McNeal on Instagram and check out everything that I'll post there, and hopefully some more art coming through now that we're in this nice phase where I won't have to be actively pushing and publishing too much for like the next few months, and then we'll keep it rolling. And I think that's all the links. I think that's all the places we are so far. So I'll drop more for like Mastodon or Hive if it comes down to that.
Nice. Now I got a question for you real quick. How many Kickstarters are you gonna do next year?
Fuck. How many did I do this year? I'm on number 4 next year. First one is going to be When the World Ended 3. That's probably going to be around February. Then the Critical Mass for our sci-fi anthology. That's going to be around March. Nobody's Princess 3 is probably going to come around May period. Ubies 2 is probably going to come around July. And then after that, the back half of the year is like relatively done. So that was what, another 4 or so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right, cool. So
it might be a 5th. I'm still working on the details for like the 5th one, and there will be a special like Christmas time one that I'm still very like in the early phases right now. Hopefully getting worked out too.
6 to 8. Nice.
Probably, yeah.
You'll drive yourself insane, but yeah, listen, it's a good crazy though.
Yeah, it's a good crazy. I think at this point, like after you've done enough of it, now I'm kind of like I'm dead to Kickstarters almost. Like so, like
Mhm.
you know, there's usually that anxiety of like biting your nails and checking your your funding every day, and I'm just like going up, doing all this, running my aggregates, you know, working on my my spreadsheets and everything too. I'm pretty good at forecasting Kickstarters at this point, so it only becomes a problem to me if like the funding is off of my model, and I know that I need to put some extra work into it to do more. So that's all it is to it. You make the effort to make it as nice as you can, and then put the effort in to keep pushing it, and you live with the results from that. Thankfully, that's worked out so far.
True enough. Steve, where can they find you and your work, sir?
StarWarpConcepts.com. That's where you'll find us. It's horror, dark urban fantasy adventure, comics, graphic novels. Hopefully you'll find something you like.
Cool. Mr. Lanning.
As always, you can check me out on my Linktree / Michael Lanning. Has Facebook, has Twitter for the meantime, although I think that bomb that they dropped today might have pretty much obliterated Twitter.
Pretty much.
What bomb?
You can't put links on there anymore. Like you can link to your Kickstarter, but you can't link to your Facebook, your Instagram, things like that. So it's definitely a marketing killer. Then of course you find me on the IndyComicsNetwork.com every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for dispatches from outside the box. So
all right,
check that.
Cool. Mr. Rosario.
UnstoppableComics.com, ladies and gentlemen. All roads lead to and from. You can find all our social media links at UnstoppableComics.com.
All right, cool. You can find me under DreamweaverPress.com, TheOswaldChronicles.com, and TallTalesOnline.com, as well as here almost every Sunday, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under JD Calderon. Thank you so much, guys. And remember, Marcus's campaign, you can find in the show notes. There's a direct link there. Just click on that. Go back that book. Great book. You can also find the Oswald Chronicles. Same thing. Click that link. And there are also various links to all these other websites. You got Jay's, you got some for Steve, you got some for Mr. Lanning, and you got Al. All right. So go check them out. Go support Indie Comics. Go buy more Indie Comics, especially ours. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Night.